Hey guys, how are y'all doing? Today we're going to start recapping the manhwa, Ashtarte, a beautiful story about a young boy and a young girl taking their fates into their own hands, not letting a prophecy define them. I really like this one. I hope you do too. If you like this sort of content, please remember to like and subscribe. It's a huge help for us, and it allows us to be able to post more videos. Without further ado, let's jump right into the story. Young and sweet Ashtarte Firenze, princess of the Firenze Empire, is exploring a beautiful evergreen garden with her attendant, Loena. Loena explains that the plants there are so green because Prince Mirigan, Ashtarte's older brother, used magic so that the garden would bloom during winter. Ashtarte's having a wonderful time as she rarely gets to leave her palace because of a prophecy the high priest foretold, saying that on the night of the blood moon, two princesses would be born, one bearer of light and the other bearer of darkness. Just as the priest announced, on the night of the blood moon, two princesses were born. With silver hair like the rest of the royal family, Amaryllis Firenze was born from a commoner mother. On the other hand, Ashtarte was born with pure royal blood, but with hair as dark as night, a color never seen before in the imperial family. Because of that, Ashtarte was interpreted to be the bringer of darkness, while Amaryllis, the light princess, causing the royal family to banish Ashtarte following her mother's death, secluding her to a separate castle with only one maid, Loena. Loena is furious by this, as she knows Ashtarte to be the most loving and sweet child, who even helps her around the palace doing chores. In any case, after a while in the garden, Ashtarte becomes hungry. So Ashon Belga, captain of the 5th Division of the Imperial Guard, escorts her around the garden while Loena fetches her some food. That's when they run into Prince Mirigan and Princess Amaryllis, nicknamed Rilly. The only interaction Ashtarte has had with the prince is when he told her to never call him brother, that only Rilly could. Poor Ashtarte was heartbroken by that. Now, Rilly is inviting her to have tea with them. You would have expected the Princess of Light to be at least as sweet as Ashtarte, right? Well, wrong. She turns out to be an egocentric, conniving bish who, as soon as Ashtarte sits down, demands to give her a hairpin she's wearing. Ashtarte doesn't want to, as it was gifted to her by Loena, but the manipulative bish insists, telling her that if she doesn't, it would look like she hates her. What the hell? Ashtarte refuses to give it to her, sending Rilly into a fit of rage. She breaks cups, asking Ashtarte how dare she say no to her, and even going as far as trying to take the hairpin from her by force. Spoiled much? Prince Mirigan stops Rilly's hand, leaving her even more shocked as he had never opposed her before. With crocodile tears running down her cheeks, she plays the offended card and storms off from the tea table. Mirigan orders Ashon to go after her, leaving him and Ashtarte alone. It's kind of awkward between them, as you would guess, but Mirigan tries breaking the ice by asking Ashtarte if the dress she's wearing is new. Ashtarte calls him brother by mistake, angering him. Ashtarte gathers up the courage to ask him why she can't call him that, if she's as much a sister to him as Rilly is. But Mirigan is cruel, telling her that he would pick Rilly over her in a heartbeat, and warning her that he won't stop Rilly from hurting her again. Mirigan storms off as well, leaving a crying Ashtarte behind. She's devastated. All she ever wanted was to be loved by her family, but now she realizes that will never be possible. She then finds Mirigan's magic book lying on the table. She opens it and is surprised to discover that she can actually understand the magical language it's written in. While skipping through the pages, she finds a magic spell that allows one to discover their destiny, so she reads it, which causes her to teleport into a dark office where a chained boy is looking at her, warning her to go away if she wants to live. It's been a few days since Ashtarte landed in that room and met the handsome, purple-eyed Rion. He seemed a bit scary at first with the whole "I'ma kill you if you don't leave" speech. Since then, Rion has showed himself to be a true gentleman, giving Ashtarte food and letting her stay there until she figures out how to return home. He's even a bit of a teaser, asking Ashtarte if landing there because of a destiny spell is some sort of pickup line or something. I wish. He even told her the meaning of her name, Ashtarte, who was an ancient goddess of war and love. He's really curious about her, thinking she may be a noblewoman from her manners, but not being quite convinced as her hands are pretty worn out. She even told him boastfully that one of her talents is to go for a week without food. Poor girl doesn't even realize that's wrong on so many levels. He also wonders about her magical talent, as she's been able to read up to 500 spells in just a few days. Ashtarte also wonders about him, noticing he's able to give her unlimited high-quality food, but is also chained up and alone in a room. She asks him if he lives with his family, and with a deviant smile, he tells her he's not sure. He asks her the same thing, but as we know, it's the same for Ashtarte. After some time, Ashtarte finally finds a spell that can teleport her wherever she wants. As she starts saying the spell, a strong wind begins to blow inside the room, causing a bookshelf to almost fall on top of Ashtarte. Luckily, Rion was fast enough to shield her from it. Ashtarte feels extremely guilty about this, apologizing to Rion, who tells her to stop apologizing as she couldn't have helped the bookshelf from falling. Oh my god, they are so cute together. After Rion shields her, Ashtarte asks him if he's worried about her, as his scolding reminded her of Loena. He apologizes, telling her she reminds him of someone too. With that failed attempt, Ashtarte reached her daily quota of 50 spells. Rion imposed it on her, telling her that her mana becomes really weak after 50 spells, and it's best for her to rest and recover to try again the next day. Rion's pretty amazed at her magic skills, as her reading that book means that she's able to naturally understand the 3 ancient languages of the kingdom: Rochek, Sensiberian, and Wayrak, which is a rarity to say the least. She doesn't even comprehend the power she wields by being able to understand them naturally, and so he warns her never to tell anyone of her magical abilities, as it may cause people to become jealous or wary of her power. He then stores the magic book in a high shelf where Ashtarte can't reach. Of course, our extra small-sized girl won't quit just like that, and later gets a staircase to be able to reach the book. Obviously, this ends up with her tipping and falling from the staircase, crying out for Loena as she does. Rion goes to her to help her tend for her bruises, asking her who Loena is. Ashtarte remembers how she first came to be with Loena, and tells him how she was the only one who stood by her side while everyone else, servants included, left her behind, wary because of the prophecy. Ashtarte fondly remembers Loena and tells Rion that she's the main reason she wants to return, so as not to make her worried. While Ashtarte sleeps, Rion is feeling guilty after knowing she has someone she adores waiting for her back home. A captain enters the room, asking Rion how much longer he'll let Ashtarte stay there. Rion's irritated by his inquiries, ordering him to go away. The captain leaves, calling Rion young master, irritating him even further, as with an ice-cold look in his eyes, he turns around to remind him that he's not the young master anymore. Back in the Magic Garden, we are shown what happened to Loena after Ashtarte's disappearance. Loena was bringing a basket full of food for Ashtarte when she ran into Ashen, running behind Princess Amaryllis and the Crown Prince Mirigan, who had just left Ashtarte. He was quite upset at her, as she had apparently told Ashtarte that the dresses he had gifted her had been gifted by herself. He questions Loena about it, and unable to contain her rage towards him, she replies that he never asked her to tell the princess they came from him. She had chosen to lie to her because she didn't want to give Ashtarte false hope, and even went as far as calling the prince a coward for being sporadically kind to Ashtarte, only to then crush her heart by telling her never to call him brother and ignoring her. Are you looking for a death wish, girl? It also seems that Ashtarte had asked the prince a few days ago to gift Loena a new dress, and he agreed to do so to return the favor of Ashtarte saving his life. Loena then goes on to ask the prince to never address Ashtarte again, to ignore her as he had done for 10 years and not show her any affection, least of all, hope. With this, the prince has had enough of Loena's insubordination, telling her in a harsh tone that she's gone too far. Everyone had thought of Riley as a bearer of light and Ashtarte as the star of darkness because of the hair colors. Kinda dumb, but oh well. Even her 2 brothers, Mirigan and Noah, Mirigan's younger brother, Because of that, they've never seen their sister for 10 years. But it seems that Mirigan's idea of her began to shift lightly after she apparently saved his life, after what seems to be an assassination attempt. Noah came to Mirigan's study to tell him that he tried following the perpetrator but had no luck. And coincidentally, here's when Mirigan made the request for the dresses for Luena, and even added dresses for Ashtarte, leaving him quite surprised at his brother's gesture. Back in the garden, Mirigan seems to forgive Luena's life, telling her that it's the first and last act of mercy he'll have towards Ashtarte, given that he noticed how dear Luena had become to her. He then leaves. Snapping out of her shock, Luena grabbed Ashen and asked him where Ashtarte was. He told her to go look in the gazebo, but we all know she had already disappeared by that point. Returning to Ashtarte, Rion is taking her on a walk through some gardens outside his palace, full of evergreen lilies of the valley, just like the ones in her hairpin. He takes her to a familiar-looking gazebo, giving her some of her favorite sandwiches. Ashtarte wonders about his shackles. I mean, he's able to roam around freely in his castle and is served like a nobleman, so he's obviously not imprisoned. She tells him that she's not afraid of him and that she'll help him take them off if he wants, telling him there must be a magic spell in her book that'll do the trick. He then grabs her wrist and asks her if she thought he would fall for that. Surprised, Ashtarte asks him why she would try to fool him, to which he replies that he figures she's just trying to get her magic book back, making her groan in frustration. He tells her that he doesn't have any plans of taking them off soon, telling her that taking them off would make some people extremely anxious. Ashtarte asks him if he plans on wearing those shackles forever, and he tells her it might be possible, which really upsets her and causes her to shout at him, telling him he can't live forever in hiding. It's then that we are told that, in fact, Ashtarte remembers everything from her past life and is actually a reincarnation of a servant who was bought by a viscount to entertain his children. They were cruel, harming her physically for amusement, and even went as far as killing her by poisoning her food. Before dying, she wished to be reborn into a loving family, and was actually reborn as Ashtarte, despised by her blood but loved and cherished by Luena. Snapping back to reality, she apologizes to Rion for raising her voice, and asks him if he likes lilies of the valley. With a cold look, he tells her his family liked them, bearing a bitter smile. Back in the Imperial Palace, some rumors about Ashtarte started to go around because Princess Amaryllis told the Emperor that Ashtarte had refused to give her her hairpin, insinuating she had been mean to her. This caused rumors about the prophecy starting to go around the palace. Later on, Ashen wonders if Luena ever made it back safely with Ashtarte from the gardens. His thoughts are interrupted by a desperately worried Luena, who suddenly barges in and begs for his help, as she can't find the princess anywhere. Sobbing, Luena tries to explain to Ashen that the princess is missing since the incident in the garden. He remembers the first time he saw the princess, the day after she had saved Prince Mirigan's life by tending to his life-threatening wounds. Luena had taken her to the knight's training place to demand answers as they thought an intruder had broken into her palace the night before. Remember, Ashtarte had never met her brother Mirigan before, and so she didn't recognize him. That's when Mirigan entered the room as well, thanking Ashtarte for saving him and asking her what she wanted as a reward. That's when she originally asked for Luena's dresses, and Ashen had noticed how everyone seemed to change after meeting the princess, even Prince Mirigan. Ashen strongly hugs Luena so as to calm her down. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really shipping them right now. And after she's calm, leaves to go search for the princess. In the Imperial Castle, some maids are interrupted by Prince Noah while they are looking for the most talented craftsman to make a hairpin for Amaryllis. It seems that after bad-mouthing her half-sister, she had asked her father, the Emperor, for a hairpin just like Ashtarte's. The Emperor, of course, then sent out a nationwide search for the finest hairpin for Riley. Noah walks past them, who then continue their chattering, not realizing he can still hear them. They're talking about the rumors that have been spreading about Riley's encounter with Ashtarte. Word's gone out that the prophecy has already begun, as it is said that Ashtarte had been cruel to Riley, even trying to hit her so as not to give her her hairpin. We know that's not true, though, and it seems Noah also questions its truth, as he had met Ashtarte before and doesn't think she's the kind of person who'd do that. They met once before while he was lounging outside the palace, while Ashtarte was waiting outside the kitchen for Luena to return with food. He overheard her talking to herself, saying that nobody loved her because she was all dirty. Curious, Noah approached her and kindly gave her his royal cape to wear. He was surprised by Ashtarte's reaction, who said that the cape was too lavish for her. Before leaving, he told her that he had hoped that they would meet again. He's so sweet. In Mirigan's study, he is woken up by a nightmare of his own late mother whipping him, telling him he had to become merciless in order to be the best emperor in history. This had happened a lot in his childhood, before she died from a sudden illness, and clearly left him traumatized. After her death, he wasn't too interested in the prophecy, but after insistence on behalf of the high priest, he met Riley, and after seeing her, he really hoped she'd be the light the prophecy claimed her to be. However, now he's starting to mix up the images of Riley and Ashtarte in his head. Ashen barges into his office to inform him of Ashtarte's disappearance, telling him she's been missing since after he saw her at the garden. Mirigan's heart throbs. Seems he's feeling a bit guilty and worried about Ashtarte, which really upsets him as he thought he hated her. Mirigan tells Ashen since Ashtarte's been missing for a short time now, he'll be able to use his magic to track her down, but in the meantime, to search the whole of Firenze and not to tell anyone else about her disappearance. After Ashen leaves, Mirigan searches for his magic book in order to track Ashtarte down, but is unable to find it, thinking he simply misplaced it. Little does he know that his book is actually with Ashtarte at that very moment. Going back to Ashtarte, seems she finally found a spell that might work to make her go back. It's supposed to let you teleport to someone who misses you. Rion's knowledge of magic is kind of surprising, as he's amazed at finding out Sen Siberia's magic included that category of spells. It's explained that the Sen Siberian language of magic is a supplementary language that's used in the temple, usually used to create force fields, give blessings, or heal. Anyhow, Rion was about to return the hairpin he took from Ashtarte without her knowledge to her, right when she tells him she found the spell. He hesitates then, hiding the pin again. Ashtarte uses the spell, thinking of Luena, and is able to open a magical gate to her. However, right when she's about to cross it, Rion hugs her from behind, stopping her from going any further. He tells her it's not safe and that something could happen to her. But we all know why he actually tries to stop her, right? Ashtarte struggles against him, being able to free herself right as the magical door is closing. Nonetheless, it seems to be too late, as the magic starts to break down in front of her. Ashtarte is really worn out. It seems that breaking the magic of a spell mid-cast can have a recoil effect on the caster. Rion knew that, and even so interrupted her spell. He then picks up her sleeping body and tells her that he wasn't ready to give her up just yet. However, we see that he said that on purpose, just to ask Captain Kylos Enkavan, captain of his knightage, if saying that would convince him that he would not harm Ashtarte. The captain seems to be highly worried, and Rion questions him if he's worried about her or about him, asking him if he's afraid he'll go on a mad rampage again. It seems it's happened to him before, even giving him the nickname, the Slayer of Elframon. The captain just tells him that the lady has to go back home, as she's not from that country. Back in the Imperial Palace, Luena wakes up with a jolt. She actually heard Ashtarte calling out to her, but woke up too late. She breaks down again, blaming herself for Ashtarte's disappearance and feeling guilty as she promised a lady, probably the late Empress and Ashtarte's mother, that she would look after her. She then hears a knock at the door. She hurriedly goes to open it, hoping it's Ashtarte, but finds it's Ashen. She drills him for new information regarding Ashtarte, but is surprised when she sees Prince Mirigan appear from behind Ashen, wanting to ask Luena questions about the missing princess. Luena asks Mirigan what he's doing in the Empress Palace, residence of Ashtarte, as the High Priest had ordered him never to set foot there. It seems the High Priest has a lot of influence and power in the Empire, which grew a lot after his prophecy when the princesses were first born. However, Mirigan has already been there once. That time Ashtarte saved his life, and he feels everything started to go wrong since then. The day Mirigan was attacked, the High Priest came to visit him in his study. He said he had word from God, which said an attacker would threaten Amaryllis' life that day, and so he commanded Merrigan to protect the light of the Empire. Merrigan asked him why he had put such a responsibility in his hands, to which the High Priest replied that it's because he's the most powerful sorcerer in the Empire. Merrigan doesn't think he is, though, as he knows his younger brother Noah to have more power and talent than him. The High Priest also told Merrigan the princess was waiting to have tea with him. Merrigan went looking for Riley, and just in time it seems. He found an intruder breaking into the palace and trying to kill Riley with a sword. Merrigan interceded just in time, but the intruder recognized Merrigan and said he knows he's skilled at road check offensive magic, then telling him he's learned a new spell himself. Merrigan is wary, as using magic without a protective shield could harm Riley and the maids. The intruder then casts the spell, and Merrigan is able to form a shield around Riley and the maids. Merrigan was badly wounded by the intruder's spell. It seems the intruder was too, as his spell hadn't been carried out properly because it wasn't translated correctly. Merrigan was aghast, as he had never heard of that language before. The intruder had used a Wayrak spell, a language Merrigan can't read. So if the intruder is able to master the spell, he fears he won't be able to protect Riley. And so he went chasing after the escaping attacker, hoping to catch him and extract information from him. However, he blacks out and wakes up again at the Empress's palace, with the sleeping Ashtarte hugging his arm. How can you not love her? She's so cute! It was his first time meeting her, and he couldn't contain himself and almost caressed her head. However, he stopped himself, as images of his torturous mother commanding him to be merciless invaded his mind. So he just left her there sleeping on the floor. He figured he'd never see her again, but he did the other day at the Nightage. And everything started to change since then. Luena lets them come in, and both Merrigan and Ashton are appalled at their living conditions, with the castle literally crumbling down. Luena explains that they didn't have enough funding to fix it. She's tried asking the palace for money, but she's never heard back from them. Merrigan feels a sting in his heart, probably because of pity and guilt. Luena then takes them to Ashtarte's room, also pretty run down, which appalls Merrigan even further as he never knew a princess was living under such conditions. He's shown Ashtarte's wardrobe full of old and tattered dresses, and he suddenly feels embarrassed after remembering how he had shamed Ashtarte for having covered him in an old carpet when he was wounded, now realizing that was the cleanest cloth she had. He then finds Noah's cape, the one he had given Ashtarte when he met her, remember? And demands Luena to tell him where they got it from. He recognized the cloak as Noah's and wondered why he never told him he met Ashtarte. Luena then tells him she tried countless times to get Ashtarte to throw it away, but she wouldn't, deeming it the first gift she ever received from her family. She had asked her why she still loved her family, even if she had never met them. And she told Luena that she can't change her feelings. She told her that she taught her that, to love unconditionally. This girl really is pure kindness. Merrigan then asks Luena if the reason she lied to Ashtarte about the dresses was because of not wanting to get her hopes up, and she tells him that's right. We see now a deeply guilty Merrigan thinking back on how he ignored Ashtarte for so long, even though she needed him. He confesses that he actually wanted to see Ashtarte again and was glad to encounter her in the garden. Yet, he reacted horribly wrong when she called him brother, as it made him feel miserable for not protecting her when she needed him, as he had deep down accepted her as his sister from the first time they met. Merrigan is crying, consumed with guilt. Ashtarte wakes up in Rion's palace, being looked after by him as she recovers from the broken spell. She doesn't seem to remember what happened, and Rion tells her to rest for the day as she had really harmed herself. When he's about to leave, she stops him and begs him to stay with her for just a minute longer, apologizing for being so stubborn. Rion, moved, sits next to her and tells her he'll stay until she falls asleep, but angrily demands to know who told her that asking for company was a stubborn thing to do. He's getting really protective there. Ashtarte tells him that she was just scared of asking for too much, fearing that he would hate her and leave her, like her family did. Rion laments Ashtarte's pain and even offers her to stay with him in his palace longer. Ashtarte seems to be tempted by his offer, but Rion then admits that it wouldn't be fair for Luena. Ashtarte agrees, missing Luena herself, and tells Rion she wants to try to be loved by her family a bit more, that she wants to try to be loved by everyone. This sets Rion off, who tells her she doesn't need to be loved by everyone and that she also doesn't need to love everyone. He gives her back the pin, feeling bad for having kept it from her, but Ashtarte cuts him off and hugs him, thinking he had found it for her. In that hug, Rion decides to let Ashtarte go, thinking he doesn't want to cause anyone hardship again. He then tells her that, to him, she's more than deserving of love. I'm actually watering up, you guys. They are so wholesome. Once Ashtarte falls asleep, Rion stands up and leaves the magic book in her room, on a shelf close to her so she can reach it. He wishes they met a little sooner, even saying that from now on, he'll bet on his destiny with her. Ashtarte then wakes up, finding it strange not to see Rion anywhere. Finally, she remembers Rion was the one who held her back when her spell broke, so she wonders if he had blocked her on purpose. She brushes it off, still thinking the best about Rion and thinking he has no reason to want to keep her there. Clueless and naive Ashtarte. She stands up from her bed and sees the magic book, realizing she can finally reach it. Ashtarte can't reach the book, but that's not an issue anymore as she learned a spell that allows her to move stuff. It's successful, and she finally has the book in her hands. She thinks about going back to the Imperial family, and fears Merrigan will scold her for having taken his book. That won't stop her from going back, though. She's determined to keep trying to find her home there and make them her family. In the Imperial Castle, Ashen is reporting to Merrigan regarding Ashtarte's search, but it seems there's been no progress. Merrigan is frustrated, as the more time that passes, the more likely people are to find out Ashtarte's missing, which would raise questions about why he's looking for her in the first place. Merrigan asks for Noah's presence, and once in his office, tells him he wants him to do something without anyone finding out. He asks him to use his magic to find Ashtarte, confiding in him about her disappearance. Noah asks him why he's searching for her, if Merrigan's always ignored Ashtarte's existence, to which Merrigan replies that from now on, and if she'll allow it, he'll keep her close by. Aww, seems someone's heart has defrosted a bit. Noah asks him if it would cause conflict with the High Pope, who's always forbidden him from meeting her, and Merrigan tells him that that's why he must keep it a secret and be discreet. He then asks Noah about why he hasn't been wearing his cape recently, and is surprised to hear Noah lie. He tells him that it got dirty, so he threw it away. Furious, he asks him why he gave it to Ashtarte, and Noah asks him in return if it's in order. Seems Noah was a bit traumatized by their lunatic mother as well, who brainwashed him to always follow Merrigan's orders. In any case, Noah keeps his mouth shut, and just as he's leaving, tells Merrigan that even if he had ordered him, he wouldn't have told him. My, look at the influence Ashtarte has on people. Ashen goes to meet Luena in the Empress's palace. She's been waiting for him. Ashen thinks she looks thinner than before, worrying that she hasn't been eating properly. Luena interrupts Ashen before he can say anything about Ashtarte's search. She tells him she already knows he doesn't have any new information on her, and asks him not to go tell her every time he has to hand in a report. She confesses to him that it's getting really draining for her, as she's tired of getting her hopes up when seeing him go to the palace, just to have them crushed every time. This hurts Ashen, who only wants to help her and can't help but confess to her that he'd just returned from calling Prince Noah, and that he's sure that with his help, Merrigan will definitely find Ashtarte. Remember, though, that Merrigan had asked Ashen for his discretion. This doesn't seem to improve anything for Luena, who's deeply lost in her grief and longing for Ashtarte. She asks him if he knows the value of something precious, telling him that usually it's only found when lost. She wishes that this would finally allow Prince Merrigan and Ashtarte's family to realize her value, even though she's heartbroken about her disappearance, hoping that maybe she could be less resentful towards them. Looking at how affected Luena is about Ashtarte's disappearance, Ashen swears internally to never find anything precious. Ashtarte tries the spell that worked last time around, but nothing happens. She worries she ran out of mana for good with all of her previous attempts. In the meantime, Rion is having a meeting with Joshua Nohays, Prince of the Nohays Empire, He seems nice enough, insisting that he would eventually remove the chains from Rion, seeming to feel guilty about them. He even tells him he'll rinse his name, removing the nickname he's been given since the incident 2 years ago as the Butcherman of Elferman. Before the incident, he used to be called the Joker of Elferem, as he was the heir of the Elferem family, one of the 3 most powerful families of the Nohei's Empire. He discovered when young that he had a special power, and when trying to show it to his younger brother, ended up accidentally amputating his leg. He felt so guilty after that he never left his room again, even though his family made constant attempts to see him again. He feared they would hate him for what he had done, and he wouldn't be able to stand their hateful looks. It was clearly quite the contrary, and they were actually trying to reach out to him, but his guilt was too much. He even would have preferred for them to hate him from the get-go. His father told him to never show that kind of power to anyone and to never use it again. He may end up hurting more people, and the wrong people might try to use him for their advantage. However, a year after his accident with his brother, the Emperor of Nohei's called for a meeting with him. His father warned him about the Emperor, telling Rion to not budge about not using his powers ever, as the consequences may be catastrophic. Before meeting the Emperor, Rion's father asks him what he believes a good emperor is, and Rion replies that a good emperor should be a fair ruler who isn't shackled by his positions or connections. And so, they went to the meeting with the Emperor in the Imperial Palace, where he first met Joshua. There, the Emperor told him that he had heard interesting rumors about him, with a quite sinister smile on his face. It seems there's been an internal feud between the royal family and the Elferim clan, as they've been a powerful family even before the Nohei's family became emperors of that land. The Emperor tells him he's heard rumors about Rion being able to read Wayrak magic and can cast extinction spells. This utterly shocks Rion, who thought it had been kept a good secret up until then. Rion freezes in place, raising even more suspicions from the Emperor. Rion's father speaks for him, telling the Emperor that Rion is a normal human, but he doesn't buy it. To push Rion into using his magic, he then stabs his father in his leg, telling Rion that if he wants to save him, he should start using his magic. Rion is horrified, but still won't budge. Noticing this, the Emperor then shows Rion that he has taken his mother and his younger brother as well, and the Crown Prince William, Joshua's older brother, uses magic to cast a guillotine that kills them both, right in front of Rion. The Emperor then stabs Rion's father in the heart, and Rion can't take it anymore. He casts a Wayrak spell, causing 2 magical swords to almost kill the Emperor and the Crown Prince, all while young Joshua was hiding, in fear of his own family, behind a column. The Emperor marvels when seeing Rion's power, already thinking of how he can use him to conquer Firenze and the whole continent. With his dying breath, Rion's father asks him not to use his magic for killing people, ever, and tells him not to cry. He then makes him promise to stay alive and to show him how the great emperor he had spoken about rules over Nohei's. After that, Rion was ordered to use those chains and to take the blame for the death of his family if he wanted to elude charges for treason. Now, Rion asks Joshua how he believes a good emperor should be. And surprisingly, he gives the same answer Rion gave his father back then. Rion remembers Ashtarte's words, imploring him to not live in hiding, and his father's words as well, and tells Joshua he doesn't intend to live in hiding any longer. A strong sound is heard from the room upstairs where Rion and Joshua are, and Rion feels the magic in the house slowly dissipating. He's glad to see Ashtarte was finally able to make the spell to take her home work. And he just tells Joshua that the sound probably came from something falling. Ashtarte appears in a room she doesn't recognize and finds someone sleeping on the bed. She still thinks it's Loena, so she approaches the sleeping figure and tries reaching for it when suddenly, a male hand appears and grabs her wrist. It seems to be the Emperor, Ashtarte's father, and he demands to know who she is. After seeing her honey-colored eyes, the Emperor mistakes her for Rebecca, his late wife and Ashtarte's mother. However, Ashtarte quickly clears up his confusion, telling him she's not her mother. Now realizing he's before his daughter, he stands up and tries to reach out for her, but Ashtarte is terrified of him, fearing he may punish her or harm her. So she quickly uses the spell again and is able to open a portal to Luena. Shocked by the sudden gusts of wind from Ashtarte's magic, the Emperor grabs his sword, scaring poor Ashtarte even more. She walks away from him, but he keeps trying to reach her, asking her to wait a minute. She's finally able to cross the portal, leaving a confused Emperor behind. Ashtarte finally lands with Luena, who at first can't believe her eyes and thinks she's dreaming. When she realizes it's reality, she rushes to hug Ashtarte tightly, both of them breaking down and crying on each other's shoulders. Ashtarte notices Luena is thinner than before, and Luena, amidst sobs, begs Ashtarte to never leave her again. Ashtarte tells her she won't, also admitting she missed her horribly. Later on, Ashtarte tells Luena how she disappeared and reappeared again, and tells her about her newfound magical abilities. Luena is extremely surprised, as it's very rare for someone to be so proficient in ancient languages, even more so considering the lack of formal education Ashtarte received. She then makes Ashtarte promise her to never tell anyone aside from her about her powers, even going as far as threatening to never make her favorite sugar milk again. How dare she! Even so, Ashtarte has already decided to never use magic again, even though she kinda misses Rion, as she fears she won't be able to go back home again. In the main Imperial castle, Mirigan has received news about Ashtarte's reappearance. He immediately sets off for the Empress's palace to go see her, but his aide, Kale Burmuz, is continuously trying to convince him not to go. He tells him it's too late to form a relationship with her and that he won't be able to amend the 10 years he ignored her. But really, what he fears is that the head priest finds out about Mirigan now meeting with Ashtarte and causing public opinion towards Mirigan to turn sour. Remember, the high priest has a whole lot of power in the Empire. Even so, Mirigan ignores him. To Kale's misfortune, even Prince Noah shows up, wanting to join Mirigan in going to meet Ashtarte. Even Ashen shows up, meaning to go see the princess, and Kale can't help but join them too. Look at how influential Ashtarte is! Go, girl! Ashtarte puts on one of her old and used dresses, even in the cold weather, wanting to save the one she thinks Luena gave her for a more special occasion. She then tells Luena about Rion and how he helped her and looked after her, even telling her that he told her that she had been named after an ancient goddess. Luena agrees, telling her that while her mother Rebecca was pregnant with her, it is said that the gods came to her in a dream and told her that to grant her wish for a child, they would give her one with divine powers, and that she should name her Ashtarte. The princess is really impressed at hearing her mother dreamt with the gods, but Luena tells her that her mother actually had quite the amount of divine power herself, as she could read Siberian and had even been one of the principal candidates to become High Priestess. Ashtarte then realizes that this story must have happened before Luena came to work in the castle, so she asks her how come she knows so much about it. Before Luena can reply, all the men barge into the palace. in. Quite sus, in my opinion. He then remembers the Holy Festival is coming up and realizes he can use it to promote Riley's image and influence, thinking that will resolve the issue with the emerging Ashtarte. 1 week after Ashtarte's reappearance, the Emperor is holding an audience with Mirgan, his son. He's scolding him for having gone to the Empress's palace and meeting with Ashtarte. Mirgan explains his reasons, telling him that he wanted to check how truthful the prophecy was, which made Ashtarte to be pure evil. However, he tells his father that after meeting her, he realized she's nothing but a normal child, just like Riley is. The Emperor had also originally been against the prophecy, calling the High Priest insolent for having said his child Ashtarte would ruin the Empire. After the priest told him the prophecy, he was so angered at him and his arrogance that he went on to destroy nearly half the temples in Firenze. Now, after hearing Mirgan's testimony, he shocks everyone by asking them if Ashtarte is so ordinary, how could she have entered his room in the middle of the night? He tells them then about his random meeting with Ashtarte, describing her as a young child with golden eyes, who called Rebecca Firenze, his late wife, her mother. He then describes how she used magic he'd never seen before to disappear right in front of his eyes, and how he was informed the day following that night that Mirgan had gone to the Empress's palace, which of course raised his suspicions. Mirgan is astonished, as it's his first time finding out Ashtarte has magical abilities. In the Empress's palace, Loena's made Ashtarte beef stew for breakfast. Seems like after the princes visited them, they have never been short on food again, not needing to go to the royal kitchen to beg for leftovers and scraps. Prince Mirgan has been funding their food himself, leaving Loena happy that Ashtarte can finally feed right, but it's still not enough to take her resentment for them away. I mean, she's totally right. They did ignore her existence and leave her alone and starving for 10 years straight, so... It also looks like Loena also noticed Ashtarte's changed feelings for the princes, her family, as she noticed her eyes were completely emotionless when they came to visit them after her return. Ashen then appears, carrying an invitation for Ashtarte from the Emperor to dine with him, shocking both Ashtarte and Loena. Poor Ashtarte's quivering in fear, as she fears he'll want to kill her for having appeared in his room in the middle of the night that time. She tells Loena she doesn't want to go, spitting out diverse excuses that don't seem to be convincing to neither Loena nor Ashen. Loena fears she's become afraid of the outside world, while Ashen blames himself for her fear of leaving the palace, as he feels he failed to escort her properly that time in the garden. Ashen sternly tells her not to worry, even unsheathing his sword, assuring her that if anyone makes her feel uncomfortable, he'll take care of them himself. Ashtarte tries to think of a better excuse, and ends up deciding on faking a stomach ache. This seems to work, but results in the Emperor sending stomach medicine to her in return. It's been 5 days since the Emperor's first invitation to Ashtarte, and he's been sending her daily invites ever since. Ashtarte's already used every illness in the book to try to get off the hook, resulting in the Emperor sending her every medicine and supplement known to Firenze, basically. The Emperor invites her again, and Ashen, already up to speed on her excuses, asks her what she wants him to tell him this time. She can't think of anything new, and just tells him she really doesn't feel like going today, nor ever. Ashen is quite distraught, asking her what should he do to get her to go outside. He clearly feels deeply guilty and blames himself for Ashtarte's uneasiness to leave her home, even though we know that's not true. Ashtarte finally realizes, dismayed, that her avoidance of the Emperor has been troubling Ashen greatly, thinking that maybe each time she declines it, it's he who has to take the responsibility and is maybe punished by the imperial family. She remembers that was usually how it went for her in her past life, always blamed for other people's mistakes. Ashen notices her shaking and, removing his glove, offers his calloused hand and reassures her that he won't let anything happen to her and that he'll protect her. So looking at how hard he's trying to get her to leave and how honest he seems, also not wanting to cause him any more trouble, Ashtarte finally takes his hand and agrees to go meet the Emperor. That's when Ashen realizes, just as Loena had predicted, he's found what's precious to him. Ashtarte. Honestly, I can't understand how no one has realized by now that Ashtarte's the light rather than Riley. I mean, the girl completely conquers the heart of anyone she meets. Ashen escorts her to a tea table in the gardens where the Emperor is waiting for her. Ashtarte wonders why, after all of these years ignoring her and leaving her to rot in the abandoned Empress's palace, everyone in her family has suddenly become so persistent in trying to contact her. Poor girl had just made peace with her situation, and now everything is changing again. The Emperor tells her she really looks like her mother, asking her if she knows what she did to him, telling her that he's still enraged by it to this day. Ashtarte is confused, and he tells her that as soon as she realized she was pregnant with her, she left him, telling her he's convinced that she never loved him and that all she wanted was to have a royal child. Ashtarte comes to the conclusion then that her father's hate towards her was born out of his hate for her mother. However, with her newfound strength and empowerment, she faces him head-on, asking him if that's the reason she had to grow up with him hating her and telling him that it wasn't her fault. This startles the Emperor, but before he can respond, an Imperial guard runs to him, reminding him that he was late to the council meeting. Before leaving, he asks her if she resents him too, but to his surprise, she tells him she used to, but not anymore. Apparently, hearing what happened between him and her mother sort of made her empathize with him. Honestly, this girl is too pure for the world. Hurt and looking quite guilty, he asks her why she doesn't resent him anymore. But before Ashtarte can reply, the guard hurries him to the meeting. Ashtarte thinks about it though, and she realizes it's because she finally realized who her true family is. Ashen and Lowena, the only people who've always and unconditionally been there for her. You go, girl. It's about time you reclaim your peace and happiness. In the council meeting, the heads of the most important noble families of Firenze are discussing the preparations for the upcoming Holy Festival. The Emperor informs them that Lord Isaiah Sen Siberia will be personally visiting Firenze during the festival. Lord Isaiah is the Pope's only legitimate child and his main successor, noble of the last remaining holy nation in the continent, Sen Siberia. One of the nobles present, Marquess Carlos, suggests to everyone that this time around, instead of one of the princes, Princess Amaryllis should escort him and guide him around Firenze, wanting to show him her supposed divinity. He seems to be looking for Rilly and Lord Isaiah to form some sort of relationship, thinking this may bring wealth and prosperity to Firenze. Marquess Carlos upsets the Emperor by calling Rilly Firenze's one and only morning star. The Emperor is ticked off by this, asking him why he calls her Firenze's only star. The Emperor, quite bothered, reminds everyone there of Ashtarte's existence. Marquess Carlos is shocked to see him mention Ashtarte, as he thought the Emperor was the first person who wanted to forget about her existence. Even so, he apologizes as he doesn't want to be on his bad side. Seems the Emperor caused quite the uproar when he took his charges as, with a just but harsh hand, he sent to kill all the corrupt and unuseful nobles in Firenze. The Emperor then tells Carlos to do as he pleases about the matter of Isaiah's guide, as long as Rilly agrees, of course. In Mirigan's study, he's speaking to Noah, who's telling him of the Emperor's meeting with Ashtarte. Mirigan wonders if his father is interested in her because she looks like Rebecca, or because he's changed his mind about her in the prophecy. Seems Noah was also called by the Emperor for questioning about having gone to the Empress's palace, but he tells Mirigan he told nothing to the Emperor. Mirigan thanks him, but Noah tells him not to, as he acted on his own will, telling Mirigan he's interested in Ashtarte, but in his own way. Whatever that means. The head maid then enters Mirigan's study. She was called there by him, as he apparently got hold of the budget sheets for the Empress's palace and is questioning her about them, asking her if everything written there is true. The head maid thinks back on her encounter with the high priest, who said he would take care of the issue, but is still afraid to answer Mirigan's question, which further raises his suspicions. The maid is extremely afraid. The high priest had promised he'd take care of it, but if he lied, she'd be signing her death sentence by lying to the princes. She finally decides to trust the high priest, bowing down, and tells Mirigan there's nothing wrong with the ledger, swearing on her honor and everything. Mirigan, disappointed, tells her she's right, that he noticed the ledger was in fact so perfect that he tested her in order to be able to praise her hard work. She raises her head with a smile of relief plastered on her face. However, Mirigan's not done with her yet, as with a steely look, he warns her that the price of lying or working against the imperial family is, at least, her life. This, of course, drains all the light from the head maid's face, who shivers in fear. She starts to leave, but turns around after a loud shattering noise was caused by Noah breaking his teacup. He apologizes, looking at the head maid dead in the eye, and saying the teacups are so fragile nowadays. Clearly another warning to her not to do anything stupid or she'll be next. After she left, Mirigan shows himself frustrated by the outcome of their interaction. He wanted to be able to get some information from her, as the ledger raised his suspicions for being too perfect, showing signs of having been tampered with. We then see Ashen saying goodbye to his subordinates of the Knightage, informing them he'll no longer be their captain as he's going to resign. The vice captain is quite broken up about it, wanting him to stay and asking him why he's leaving them so suddenly. He assures them they are more than prepared to continue their work without him, telling them they are already proper knights, asking them to take care and work hard after his departure. Before leaving, he tells them that he's resigning because there's someone noble he wants to take care of. OMG, each chapter I fall more in love with him, I swear. He goes to hand in his letter of resignation to Mirigan, telling him he wishes to become Ashtarte's personal guard and protect her. Mirigan warns him that Ashtarte is not allowed to have a knightage, and that he'll be demoted to a simple guard, losing all the power and privileges he had until then. He accepts this knowingly, telling him that once he realized she meant everything to him, he became prepared to accept anything that comes from protecting her. Mirigan then accepts his resignation, but asks him for one last favor before he leaves the Imperial Palace. He gives them 3 information sheets on different people: the daughter of a house in financial crisis, 2 twins with scarred faces, and a girl whose family name disappeared. He asks Mirigan who these people are, and he tells him that they are candidates to serve Ashtarte in the Empress Palace. Mirigan tells him to allow them to decide whether they want to work in the Empress's palace or not, then telling him that he must then enter the Empress's palace with the ones who accept. Half a month later, Ashtarte is caught by Luena sweeping the floors. She scolds her sweetly and gives her some sugar tea, reminding her that she has promised that if Ashtarte kept her magical abilities a secret, she would make her sugar tea more often. Apparently, ever since after she met with the Emperor, she's never heard anything again from the Imperial family. No more invitations nor medicine from the Emperor, nor visits from any of the princes. Ashtarte is quite merry about that, as she seems to have finally found some peace. They hear a knock at the door and find Ashen, along with all the 4 women who volunteered to be Ashtarte's attendants, on the other side. Ashen tells them these girls are to be Ashtarte's new attendants, and they salute her, bowing and all, causing her to be quite shocked. Luena seems to be quite skeptical, becoming furious when Ashen tells her they've been sent by Mirigan. She thinks he's insulting Ashtarte, and the new attendants seem to be upset by her response. However, Ashtarte, with her lively and warm personality, quickly makes them feel at home. She introduces herself and asks for their names. Ashen then informs Ashtarte that he'll now become her own personal guard. At first, she's feeling anxious about it, fearing Ashen may resent her and hate her for having resigned his job as captain. However, Ashen assures her that choosing to protect her has been the best choice of his life, leaving her at peace. Luena knows she can trust Ashen, but is still quite cynical of the new attendants and intends to keep a close eye on them. After Ashtarte leaves, Ashen begs Luena to give the attendants a chance, reminding her that she herself decided to look after Ashtarte of her own accord, just like these women. However, Luena admits that, in fact, she had been asked to do so by someone else. A few days later, Ashtarte is trying really hard to befriend the new attendants. She starts off with Olga Altino, a gorgeous light purple-haired girl. Ashtarte is trying to help her hang wet clothes, but she won't allow it, telling her that she won't let her hands get all wet. She insists, telling her she'll help her draw the water out of it, but Olga won't let her. She immediately cuts her off, telling her it's her job and that there's nothing for her to do there. Frustrated, Ashtarte leaves. She then goes to the kitchen where she finds the twins, Moana and Morgan Harold. She finds them preparing her food, so she sneaks up on them from behind so as to play a prank on them. However, before she can do it, she overhears their conversation. They are talking about their scars. It seems that Moana, the long-haired twin, keeps optimistic about their scars being able to heal. She bought some cheap medicine, which is supposed to be made from holy water, but Morgan doubts it's actual medicine due to the price. Moana then insists, telling her that as the holy festival is coming up, Maybe they can get a chance to meet Isaiah Siberian and ask him to use his holy magic to heal them. Morgan is, however, at her limit, reminding her that not even their parents wanted them and telling her to face the reality and accept they'll live with those scars forever. Ashtarte leaves quietly, not having meant to listen to that private conversation. Lastly, she goes to visit the apothecary. In charge of the medicine and all health-related is Veronica. While going there, she meets Ashen, who has a cut on his arm and was going to the apothecary himself. Once there, Veronica pours some medicine made from a plant on his wound, making the bleeding stop and his skin heal instantly. Connecting the dots, Ashtarte asks to borrow some of that medicine from Veronica. After Ashtarte leaves with some medicine that heals scars, Veronica notes to Ashen that Ashtarte seems to be very different from the rumors that have been spreading about her. They even reached her village, saying that she is an ominous being, and that when she met with Riley, she started to consume the light. However, she notes that there's nothing ominous about her, most of all after observing her beat-up hands from hard work. Ashtarte reaches the kitchen where she finds Moana. She approaches her, asking her where Morgan is, but Moana seems to be afraid of her due to the rumors behind her ominous presence. However, Ashtarte quickly shows her she doesn't need to be afraid, as she tells her she has a gift for them and gives her the medicine. Moana is extremely grateful and surprised to see her be so different from the rumors. However, Morgan appears and takes the medicine from Moana's hands, returning it to Ashtarte and coldly telling her that they've already tried it and it won't work on old scars. Then telling her to refrain from giving them false hopes. Yikes! She apologizes for her tone and leaves, leaving a defeated Ashtarte behind. Victoria then tells Ashtarte that the Crown Prince deciphered a spell that had incredible healing power, and so she runs to her room to look for the magic book in the spell. She finds it, but is hesitant to use it on the twins as she had promised Luena never to disclose her magical powers. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Castle, Riley is expecting Lord Isaiah to arrive at any moment. She had been resistant to becoming his guide at first, but after finding out he's supposed to be very handsome, she quickly agreed, now planning to make him her groom. Damn, this girl moves fast! Isaiah finally arrives and feels an ominous presence in the palace as soon as he exits the carriage. As Riley is showing Isaiah her magical lily garden, she ogles him up, deciding his looks are so good she's gonna marry him. However, he doesn't seem so bewitched with her as everyone else around her is, as he simply tells her he wants to be led to his quarters. Riley is a bit surprised, as it's the first time anyone's ever resisted her. But he convinces her it's because he feels tired from the long journey and her ego lets her believe it. Nonetheless, once she's further away, Isaiah notes that he's getting a bad feeling from her, as if she wasn't even something that's supposed to exist, and is left quite baffled at the High Priest's prophecy, not feeling her as being holy at all. Later at night, Isaiah decides to go on a stroll around the palace's grounds alone when he encounters the Empress's palace, even though no one told him about it. Inside the palace, Ashtarte is walking towards Veronica's quarters with a sore tummy, hoping she'll give her some medicine. She's still quizzed on what to do about the twins' scar, as she knows she can use magic to heal them, but she doesn't want to break her promise with Luena. However, walking down the hallway, she eavesdrops on a conversation the twins are having in their room about their scars. Moana is angry at Morgan for being so hopeless about their scars being able to heal, telling her she's desperate to heal them, even if she's given up, while reminding her that even their parents left them because of them. Quite the douchebag parents, if you ask me. At any rate, Morgan breaks down as well, crying and telling Moana that she too is tired of them, and sometimes she just wishes she'd disappear herself. Ashtarte is shocked to hear this from Morgan, as she always seemed to be quite strong and proud of her scar. That's when she bursts in and tells them she can heal their scars. Thus, Ashtarte takes the twins to the woods behind the Empress's palace and starts using magic on them to heal their scars. They're not alone though, as Isaiah is watching from behind a tree. The twins look at each other, elated to see their scars finally gone. Isaiah, who's been watching from behind a tree, is surprised to see her use such pure magic, finally finding the light of Firenze everyone talks about. Ashtarte then makes the twins promise not to tell anyone about her magical abilities, and they comply. The next day, the twins are trying to convince Veronica that their scars magically healed from the medicine they got at the temple before going there. She's reluctant to believe them, as it hurt her pride as an apothecary, but the twins won't budge. Luena, however, seems to realize Ashtarte had a hand in healing the twins' scars, but she says nothing about it. Later that day, Ashtarte decides to return the magical book to the Crown Prince and the cape to the second prince, hoping it will dissuade her from using more magic, and will make Luena happy to see her move on from the prince's affection. She asks Ashen to escort her to the Imperial Palace, and on the way there, he asks her to talk to him more informally, hoping she'll start treating him as family. As they approach the palace, Ashtarte notices no one's paying attention to her being there, and Ashen tells her they're probably too distracted by the presence of Lord Isaiah. It's the first time Ashtarte hears of him, and she's quite intrigued by the rumors that he has a holy appearance. Finally, they arrive at the door of the Crown Prince's office. She hears them talking through the door about her. Mirrigan is questioning Noah about the time he told him he got rid of his cape because it was dirty, asking him if he'd instead given it to Ashtarte. She hears this and is heartbroken as she thinks even Noah considers her to be dirty. She drops everything on the ground and runs away while tears flow down her cheeks. The princes hear that sound and are alarmed, but it's too late. She's so hurt she decides that'll be the last time she'll cry because of them. Mirrigan and Noah open the door to only find the cape and the magic spellbook thrown on the floor. They wonder what she could have possibly heard to make her react in such a way. And then Noah realizes she probably heard Mirrigan say he'd thrown the cape away because it had gotten dirty. Noah's shook, worried she may have heard that, and now hates him based on a misunderstanding. After crying for a while, Ashtarte finally calms down, and Ashen walks with her back to the Empress's palace, after promising her he won't tell anything to Luena. In the Imperial laundry room, some maids are gossiping about Lord Isaiah, wishing to be able to see him and his rumored holy appearance. They are jealous of another maid, May, who's been able to see not only Lord Isaiah, but also Noah and Mirrigan. May appears and continues boasting about this. One of his officers appears and tells him the Emperor has arrived and wants to meet with him. Once in the throne room, Isaiah faces an expressionless Emperor who asks him about the guidance Riley has been giving him. Isaiah replies it's been good, but he believes he doesn't need to be guided by her any longer, shocking the nobleman and most of all the High Priest, who interrupts him and tries to force his hand into accepting the guidance. Isaiah obliges, but asks instead to be guided by Ashtarte, shocking everyone even further. Harrowham starts going off about how Ashtarte is the darkness of Firenze, and finally, the Emperor interjects, ordering him to shut up. He asks Isaiah why Ashtarte, and he says he just wants to meet her, but the Emperor doesn't trust him at all, as he's a priest. The Emperor then tells Isaiah one of the princes will guide him, and Isaiah seems satisfied with this option. Noah then steps in, offering himself to be Isaiah's guide. The High Priest is utterly displeased with how things turned out, thinking Isaiah is sabotaging his plans. But Isaiah is not fond of the High Priest either, getting from him the same feeling of meeting something non-human he got when he met Riley. We are shown the conversation between Mirrigan and Noah that led to Ashtarte being hurt. In fact, Noah has gotten angry at Mirrigan for saying that he'd thrown his cape away for being dirty, still trying to not tell him he gave it to Ashtarte. It seems Noah's trying to gatekeep Ashtarte from Mirrigan, feeling as though he's always taken everything that was his away from him. He remembers how he felt their mother gave all her affection to Mirrigan, as well as Riley's affection and recognition for their magical talent. He feels as though Mirrigan has always taken them all for himself. Thus, he told him he had thrown the cloak away to prevent Mirrigan from gaining any interest in Ashtarte. But now it's all become a huge misunderstanding. Some days later, Noah and Mirrigan go to the Empress's palace to apologize to Ashtarte and give back the cloak and the magical book. They are received by Ashtarte, but she bears a cold, expressionless look towards them now. She asks them to take those things back with them, but Noah just asks her if she heard the conversation between him and his brother. Noah tries to clear things up, telling her that it had all been a misunderstanding and that he didn't think she'd be hearing them. However, this only enrages her further, asking him if she hadn't heard them, he'd still be talking like that behind her back. Noah freezes, only being able to apologize to her. Mirrigan then interjects, telling her they came to apologize and begging her to let things return to how they were before. Ashtarte laughs, telling them she's grateful for what happened as it made her realize a lot of things, and that nothing will go back as it was before. Mirrigan then gives her another magical book as an apology gift, asking her to accept it and telling her they'll be going now. Ashtarte stands up, asking them to take the gifts with them, but they ignore her, still doing as they please. Later on, Ashtarte, the twins, and Ashen are outside in the garden of the Empress's palace, trying to plant some plants in the barren land. As they are working, they notice Lord Isaiah approaching them, who comes closer and steps before Ashtarte. In the tea room, Isaiah asks to speak alone with Ashtarte, and even though they don't know him as he's the Prince of Sen Siberia, they can't refuse him. Once alone, he asks her if she healed the twins' scar, telling her he saw her. He tells her he won't tell anyone if she knows how to use magic, and she makes him pinky promise, just like Luena taught her. She tries threatening him, telling him that he'll face harsh consequences if he breaks the promise, as she's said to be the darkness of Firenze. Isaiah doesn't buy this at all, feeling as though she's the most radiant person he's ever met. He then ties a golden ribbon around her pinky finger, telling her that it is a tradition in Sen Siberia to give another person a ribbon that represents oneself during the holy festival, where back in Sen Siberia, it's called the Celebration of the New Star. Ashtarte is gleaming while learning about another country's culture. He then leaves, and Ashtarte is left marveled by him. She feels he's a bit strange, but ultimately a good person. He even asked her before leaving to call him Isaiah rather than His Holiness next time they see each other. Isaiah then returns to his officers and tells them he was busy giving someone a ribbon. They are really shocked to hear this, as apparently those ribbons are only given to people you mean to seal a bond of destiny with. Back in the Empress's palace, Ashtarte is making black ribbons to give to the people she cares about. She's too sweet for this world. The next morning, Luena informs her there's going to be a visitor coming later that day, and she seems to be really attentive that everything is in order when they arrive. Finally, he arrives, and it's none other than Luena's father, Baron Gwen Juarez. Him and Ashtarte had never met in person before, but she's been looking forward to this meeting for a while, as he's the main reason they'd been able to live in the Empress's palace with no funding. While having some tea, Gwen tells Ashtarte she resembles her mother a lot, especially her eyes. He came there because he thinks it's time to give Ashtarte something. He's told Luena it's finally time to keep his promise, as he fears Ashtarte's mother's vision will come true and Ashtarte will be killed. Gwen tells Ashtarte that her mother left a notebook of hers with him, with the instructions to give them to Ashtarte if she ever longed for her. Ashtarte embraces the notebook in her arms warmly, thanking Gwen for giving her such a meaningful present. At night, Ashtarte goes to her late mother's bedchambers, noticing how it's always impeccably clean thanks to Luena. The Empress's notebook is sealed shut, and Ashtarte can't figure out how to open it. She'd hoped that bringing it to her mother's room would have made a change, but it's still sealed. Disappointed, Ashtarte rests her head on the book's cover while telling her mother she misses her, causing the seal to open. In a dream or trance, Ashtarte sees her mother, Rebecca, and young father, Orwin, meeting in the Imperial Gardens. They seem to be pretty smitten with each other, as Orwin asks her about her stomach, worried her pregnancy might be giving her stomach issues. But Rebecca assures him their child is well-behaved and, unlike him, doesn't torment her. Playfully, she tells him he left her lonely by going away for 3 days on work business, and he seems to be very submissive to her, apologizing and all. Ashtarte's surprised to see how fond of each other they were, as she remembers the Emperor telling her that her mother never loved him and disappeared as soon as she got pregnant with her, making her wonder whatever caused him to believe that. She's then taken to a moment further along in time, where a young Luena and Gwen are asking Rebecca why she's decided to stay away from the Emperor. She explains that she had a vision that the Emperor will end up killing Ashtarte, so she believes the best thing to do for her is to keep away from Orwin. Luena and Gwen try pleading with her, telling her to at least explain this to the Emperor, but she insists on keeping it from him, as he never believed in prophecy, and this vision had come to her in a dream right after unveiling new San Siberian magic. Ashtarte then wakes up and starts devouring the notebook, which turns out to be her mother's diary. There, she discovers her father became mad at her mother and eventually her because of their miscommunication, but in reality, he didn't even bother to check on Rebecca himself either. As Ashtarte keeps on reading, she gets to a part in which Rebecca writes that she heard from an attendant that Orwin asks for another woman to be sent to his bedchamber, wondering if he's already stopped loving her. She's miserable about it, but is trying to keep strong for Ashtarte. With that, Ashtarte finally decides she hates her father, as she interprets that he abandoned both her mother and herself in their time of deepest need. The next day, we see Riley about to throw a fit to her attendant because Isaiah didn't show up to see her again. She's annoyed at him and at Ashtarte, thinking she wants to take away everything that is hers, insisting that she's the darkness. The headmaid tries to calm her down and finally manages to do so by convincing her to use this opportunity to show everyone that she indeed is the light of Firenze. Thus, a letter arrives at the Empress's palace, inviting Ashtarte for tea at the Imperial Palace. Luina doesn't seem to be too pleased with the invite, feeling as though it's half-hearted and not even polite, but Ashtarte decides to go anyway and asks Ashen to escort her there. As they approach the Imperial Palace, they stumble upon Isaiah, who's also heading that way, with a gloomy atmosphere about him. However, as soon as he sees Ashtarte, he immediately lights up, greeting her with a wide smile and asking her if she had been invited to tea as well. Ashtarte tells him she had, but also comments on how he didn't seem too eager to be going himself. He agrees with her, but tells her that now that she's going, he's very pleased to be attending. As they keep walking together, Isaiah puts on a gloomy face again, telling Ashtarte that she keeps calling him Your Holiness rather than just Isaiah as he previously asked her. She's a bit taken aback by this, but as soon as she calls him Lord Isaiah, his mood swings back into bubbly again. Moreover, Isaiah then notices a black ribbon tied to Ashen's sword shaft and tries reaching out to grab it. Ashen stops him though, telling him he can't take it as it's a gift given to him by Ashtarte. Isaiah then plays it off as though he was trying to see what's written on the ribbon, but Ashen knows better and asks him if he wasn't trying to grab it. Without denying it, Isaiah just turns to Ashtarte to ask her if there's a ribbon for him too, and she confirms there is, but she left it in the Empress's palace as she didn't think she'd meet him there. Ashtarte's also thinking about another person she wants to give a ribbon to, Rion. Finally, they arrive at the door for the tea room. To their surprise, the whole Imperial family is sitting there, and everyone seems shocked to be seeing one another except for Riley. She poses as being happy to see her, but as soon as she notices she came with Isaiah, her expression changes as she asks him if they came together. Ashtarte senses she has to be cautious about her answer, but before she can say anything, Riley notices her new hairpin, which was also given to her by Gwen from her mother. The Emperor also seems to notice the hairpin, and furious, he demands to know where she got it from. Ashtarte's really shaken from this whole situation, wondering why on earth they would call for her if they were going to treat her so horribly. Riley, being the egocentric brat she is, tries shifting attention to herself by telling Ashtarte that her new hairpin isn't as pretty as the one her father got for her, boasting about how expensive it is. Nonetheless, the Emperor doesn't seem moved by this at all and insists on asking Ashtarte where she got the hairpin from. Starting to get annoyed herself, she responds firmly that it's hers, but the Emperor just tells her it's not as he gifted it to Rebecca. Now yelling, she exclaims that it's something her mother left for her, but the Emperor is so consumed in his own narrative that he can't bring himself to believe that Rebecca kept it for all those years, as it would suggest she loved him rather than hated him. This makes Ashtarte furious as she realizes he'll never be able to see how much her mother truly loved him. So, she makes a firm statement to all those present, telling them that she'll stay in the Empress's palace and won't leave it from there on after. She continues by saying she won't go out if they don't want her to, and as she knows they hate her, she asks them not to pay any more attention to her. Apart from Riley, who seems quite pleased with how things are turning out, everyone else there gets upset by her decision. Noah even jumps up, telling Ashtarte he doesn't hate her. Nonetheless, Ashtarte turns to face them again, coldly, telling them she's the one who hates them now. As they are heading back to the Empress's palace, Isaiah asks her if she's okay, but Ashtarte seems to be happier than ever, relieved to have finally expressed her true emotions towards her family. Isaiah also asks her what she meant when she mentioned the 10 years. Apparently, after declaring her hatred for them, Mirrigan asked her what they could do to gain her forgiveness, and she replied by telling them that they could do as she did and wait for 10 years. Therefore, she explains to Isaiah that for the first 10 years of her life, she never met her family due to the Oracle, which in turn makes him think she hates him if she resents the god which sent down the Oracle and him for serving it. Immediately, Ashtarte tells him she doesn't hate him, calling him one of the good priests and making him smile. Finally, we get to see Rion again. He's having a meeting with the second prince of the Nohay's Empire in his office in the Elferman estate. There, he tells the prince he wishes to start a blood revolution to take down the current emperor and reinstate someone who's a worthy leader. The prince seems a bit shaken by this, but it's no surprise to him as he's the one who gave Rion the list of the noblemen supporting the current emperor. Apparently, even the prince can't stand his father as he's a very immoral ruler, selling people off for slavery to foreign lands, killing people for even sending petitions to the palace, and much more. Thus, he's willing to aid Rion in taking him down and helping him become the new just emperor. Some days prior to his meeting with the second prince, Rion has asked his servant to do some research on Ashtarte, and he finally found out she is the second princess of Firenze. Given that Firenze is a strong nation, Rion's plan to reunite with Ashtarte is to build Nohayes into a strong empire as well so that they can meet again as equals. Back in the Empress's palace, there is an alarming hard knocking on the main door. Ashen goes to check on who it is, and to his surprise, it is none other than Lucas, followed closely by the captain of the 5th Guard, Alec. Lucas explains that he tried stopping him, but it was no use. He came all the way there to ask Ashen to return to the knightage. Ashen, however, is adamant in staying as Ashtarte's guard. Alec accepts his response quite easily and takes his leave, telling Ashtarte they'll meet again. Ashen is not too convinced about his response, as he knows him to be a determined man. In the twins' chambers, they are retying the ribbons given to them by Ashtarte when Olga bursts in, demanding to know if their scars have been healed by Ashtarte. They are shocked. Morgan asks her what she plans to do with this information, and she replies that she'll report it to the Crown Prince. She hopes that if everyone knows Ashtarte can read ancient magic, then her reputation will improve, and thus Olga can clean her own family name through her. Morgan stops her there, coming closer to retie her ribbon, while telling her she sounds like she's trying to sell out her master for greed, reminding her that she is one of Ashtarte's people as well. Meanwhile, the head maid of the Imperial Palace is meeting with the High Priest to report that the Emperor appointed the 5th Guard as Ashtarte's personal knightage. Completely outraged at this, as Riley was the only one with that privilege before. The High Priest cuts her off, reminding her that Ashtarte had promised to stay in the Emperor's palace. Thus, he orders her to keep an eye on her movements there, assuring her that the knightage means nothing. Ashen, Luena, and Ashtarte are extremely surprised to see a whole knightage awaiting them outside, led by the Emperor. Alec steps forward and introduces himself to Ashtarte, telling her that from that day on, they are going to be her very own dedicated knightage. The Emperor notices she doesn't look pleased about it, so he asks her what it is that she wants, to which she replies, as cold as stone, that she wants nothing from him. She reminds him that she won't be leaving the Empress's palace, so there's no need for him to start treating her well now. He looks upset, asking her if Rebecca left anything else for her that would make her resent him now. Ashtarte denies so, but he insists, and finally, she asks Luena to go pick her mother's diary from her room. As he devours through its pages, his gaze turns more and more sorrowful. Ashtarte had originally thought that her father didn't have the right to read her mother's journal, but now she thinks it'll suit him well to feel regretful about everything he's done. He finishes reading the diary and returns it to Ashtarte, tears falling down his cheek. Swallowed by guilt, he tells Ashtarte that anything she wants, he'll give to her, so she firmly demands the knightage be removed. However, the Emperor remembers when Alec came to him, requesting to be designated to her, and the sudden worry he felt for her safety after having a vision of her being murdered. Therefore, he forces her hand into accepting them, telling her that if not, they'd lose their jobs. Lastly, as he leaves, she requests him not to approach her anymore to allow her to hate them and heal, which he accepts. Time flies by, and the Holy Festival is at its end, meaning that it's finally the day for Isaiah to return to Sen Siberia. He has one last reunion with Ashtarte, who looks quite disappointed to see him go, making him relieved. He confesses to her that he's relieved because her being sad about him leaving means that he's won her over. But this only makes Ashtarte become more confused. She clearly only views him as a good person, poor lad. But he tells her that he hopes her thoughts about him change next time they see each other, in the next Holy Festival in 5 years' time. She's even more confused than before, but he stands to get closer to her, and while touching her hand, tells her that he hopes to become more than just a good person to her. Also noticing he's wearing the ribbon she gave him, Ashtarte can't help but blush at this. After that, Isaiah is gone. In the Amadeus Temple, we see the High Priest murdering a young woman. Later, he is called on by another woman asking about the health of her daughter. Shockingly, she looks identical to Rebecca, but we learn that she was only hired by the High Priest to be the woman who slept with the Emperor that night to birth Riley. She was clearly chosen because of her resemblance to Rebecca, and after giving birth to Riley, the High Priest bought her silence by paying her monthly. However, she now seems worried as she went to the doctor recently, where she learned that she has been infertile for quite some time now. The high priest tries convincing her that even more so, this is proof that really is a miracle and the light of the empire. But the woman fears that she may not even be human. Menacingly, the high priest tells her not to worry and keep living in silence. Meanwhile, the Night Edge seems to have molded into the Empress's palace quite effortlessly, mounting guard every night and commuting from the dorms to be there. They are helping everywhere they can, even helping Olga carry a bucket of water. Ashtarte is walking by and notices Olga's ribbon has come loose, so she hastily approaches her and sweetly ties it again for her. This makes Olga feel uneasy, as she's still on the fence about selling her out to the prince or not. She asks Ashtarte why she treats her so kindly, and dumbfounded, Ashtarte tells her that it's because she's one of her people. Ashtarte reminds her of the first time they met and that she was the first person to greet her, confessing that ever since then she's been trying to befriend her as she feels like she's a very kind and reliable person. This finally wins Olga over, deciding to keep her magic a secret. Meanwhile, Rion is leading the rebellion in the Nohei's empire. They've already arrived at the Imperial Palace, where they have the Emperor cornered and the Crown Prince restrained. The Emperor scorns him for using his magic against the royal family, asking him why he's taking revenge after so many years. However, Rion has a follower read the Emperor all the charges he's facing for corruption. The Emperor laughs, asking him what he plans on doing after killing him, but his laugh is cut short when Rion informs him that he plans on making him watch as his family is killed, as he had done to him, killing the Crown Prince. Then, he reveals that he plans on serving the new Emperor, Joshua. He steps up, telling his father how he won't stand back and watch as his tyranny destroys the Empire, as Rion administers the final blow that kills the Emperor. With that, Joshua is now in the throne. Rion plans on making Nohei stronger to meet again with Ashtarte. 5 years have passed, and in the Empress's palace, Ashtarte is reading a letter she's received from Isaiah. Morgan and Moana are fangirling about it, as it told Ashtarte that he'd be coming to see her in the upcoming Holy Festival. Ashtarte blushes but brushes them off, leaving to ask Loena for some cloth dye, as in the letter, Isaiah also reminded her of the tradition of the ribbons, asking her to make one for him. Gosh, I'm really split between Isaiah and Rion, you guys. Moana approaches Ashtarte with a letter from the Emperor. She asks her to throw it away as she's not going to read it. It seems as through the years they haven't respected her wishes to be left alone and keep sending her gifts and letters, all of which she's never opened. Apparently, the outskirts of Firenze are contaminated. The land and river have all dried up and nothing is able to grow there anymore. The nobles are debating on whether they should ask Sen Siberia for help, but the high priest has told them he has everything under control. Nonetheless, many harmful rumors are being spread, as many speculate this is a result of Ashtarte, the so-called darkness, being alive. They are all afraid this is a punishment from God, fearing that Horium's prophecy will come true. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Palace, Riley is asking Medena if Isaiah will be attending this year's Holy Festival. Medena tells her that's right, making Riley excited to have Isaiah meet her all grown up, believing that now he won't be able to refuse her in favor of Ashtarte as he did before. She also asks Medena about Ashtarte, wishing out loud that she just disappear, and making Medena convinced that Ashtarte has to be dealt with immediately, as she believes she's been troubling Riley. I don't like where this is headed, guys. In the Empress's palace, Veronica is giving Luca a book to return to the Imperial Library, but he's stopped by Ashtarte, who asks to read that book herself, even though Luca tells her that Veronica was quite disturbed by it. In any case, Ashtarte devours it that very night, becoming disturbed by its contents herself. The next morning, she's looking for Luca to have him return that book immediately, but she's caught with it by Veronica, who asks her if she's read it. She confesses she has, admitting she was upset by the contents as well. It apparently talks about a creature that's not human but poses to be human, called a homunculus. They are crafted by hands of fallen beings, using black magic, and the only way to distinguish them from humans is by their bright green colored blood. Horrifyingly enough, we see Riley get cut by her hairpin in her room, revealing that she has green blood, terrifying herself. Ashtarte asks Veronica why she asked for that book, but Veronica clarifies that she asked for a book on black magic, not expecting to receive one about those creatures. Apparently, black magic is the most ancient and forbidden magic there is. It's prohibited because it requires an extra sacrifice in the form of animal blood or even human life. Thus, it's been forgotten in the Empire, and this is the first time Ashtarte is hearing about it. Astarte's still wondering why Veronica would need to learn about black magic, but she simply states that it's part of her scientific curiosity as an apothecary. However, Veronica has another reason to be interested in black magic. Apparently, 10 years ago, someone dear to her, Azalea, suddenly died after moving to the capital as a priest. They told her that she was killed for having gone against the high priest after he told his prophecy, but Veronica knows there's more to it. In the Imperial Palace, they just held a meeting regarding the contaminated land in the north. His Majesty is informed of the advances of the Nohei's Empire, which has just conquered an empire on the border of Firenze, and they intend to send a delegation to meet with them. In the Empress's palace, Luena gives Astarte a letter from the Imperial Palace that Ashen insists she receive. It's a petition from the Emperor for her to attend the baptism of the Imperial family that will take place at the beginning of the Holy Festival. Luena asks Astarte if she'll go, and as they are official business regarding the Imperial family, she says she must. Meanwhile, Riley has locked herself in a room as she makes herself bleed in various parts, being horrified each time as she always bleeds green. Not only that, but as soon as she's hurt, the wound immediately heals itself. She's appalled as she realizes for the first time in her life that she's not human, and that if it hadn't been for her brother's constant protection, she would have probably learned about it sooner. She hastily cleans everything up so that Medina nor anyone finds out about her new secret, as she believes she'll be treated as a monster and shunned out like Astarte was. Mirigan is heading towards the Empress's palace, longing to see Astarte once again, but he's being stopped by his advisor, Kale. Kale's trying to convince him to wait a little longer as they'll see each other in the royal baptism, also reminding him that he'd promised her to keep away for at least 10 years. Mirigan is adamant on going though, only turning to face Kale with sharp eyes after he tells him that people will perceive his actions negatively, as everyone is blaming Astarte for the contamination of the borderlands of the Empire. Building up some courage, Kale tells him that if he goes to her palace now, it'll only harm her circumstances more, as people will blame her even more, which finally makes Mirigan come to his senses. He wants to see her so badly, not only because he misses her, but also because this year she'll be turning 16 and becoming a debutante. So he wants to congratulate her personally. But he desists now that he realizes it may do more harm than good. Meanwhile, Gwen is giving Astarte a gift, and she's surprised as it's not even her birthday yet. He tells her he wants to give it earlier to her as she may need it soon, and it turns out to be this gorgeous black dress he got from a very famous boutique called January. To Astarte's displeasure, a few days later, the day of the baptism arrived. She's put no effort in her appearance, meaning to go and come back as quickly as possible. However, Luena catches her right before she goes, telling her she has to look incredible to show everyone how well she's been doing since the last time they saw each other, so she gets dressed in the dress Gwen gave her. Once they arrive at the Imperial Palace, the butler informs them that the baptism is going to be delayed, so they decide to go to the Imperial Library in the meantime. As they're heading there, Astarte is alarmed by a hard slapping sound, and so she goes to take a look at what's going on. Close by, they find two former maids of the Empress's palace, Marianne and Kate, being harassed by two other maids from the Imperial Palace. They are bullying them for having come from the Empress's palace, saying that they are contaminated, but they shut up as soon as they see Astarte beside them. They apologize, but Astarte bears a cold, dead look in her eyes. She reproaches the bullies and then asks her former maids what they're doing there. Back when Astarte was a toddler, it seems that all the maids but Luena left her to work for Riley. Nonetheless, Kate and Marianne had missed the timing, so they stayed behind as well. But as soon as they got another chance, they left Astarte without ever turning back. That's why now Astarte is surprised to see them being mistreated as they are, feeling a bit bad for them. However, as soon as they start trying to treat her well again, she cuts them off, telling them coldly that they shouldn't try to get in her good graces now. Still feeling bad for them, she turns to their bullies and warns them never to touch them again, instantly scaring them off. In the capital, a very good-looking Isaiah and a group of priests are hurrying to the Imperial Palace as they are running late for the baptism. One of the priests asks him why he's attending this year's holy festival, given how busy he is with the contaminated lands, but he simply states that he has a promise to keep. He bumps shoulders with a hooded man with deep violet eyes, clearly Rion, and they lock eyes for a moment. In that second, Isaiah felt overpowered by him, and Rion notices the ribbon Isaiah is wearing, which is the one Astarte had given him 5 years prior. Finally, Astarte enters the Imperial throne room. Mirigan stands up, elated to see she came, but Astarte coldly tells him that she came only because she was obliged. Her father then tells her she's grown pretty, coyly adding that she's read his letter. Callously, Ashtarte tells him that this is the only letter she's read of his, asking all of them to stop sending her gifts and letters. At last, the priests arrive, and Isaiah freezes on the spot as he gazes upon Ashtarte. Really stands up, furious to see him look at Ashtarte with those eyes. He snaps out of it, and the baptism begins, starting off with Ashtarte. As soon as Isaiah casts the blessing spell on Ashtarte, she's enveloped by strong light, which then dissipates away from her. They are all worried, thinking that this may mean that she can't be blessed. But Isaiah is joyful, telling them that she can't be blessed by him because she's already been blessed with a much stronger blessing. The emperor is furious, telling him he's taking them for fools, as the only person who can cast a stronger blessing than him is his father, who never visited Firenze. But Isaiah informs him that Ashtarte has been blessed by a god, leaving everyone speechless and really consumed in worry. Ashtarte recalls Luena told her that her mother used to meet with the gods in her dreams, where they gave her her name, and she thinks that maybe her mother might have been blessed by them, passing it on to her. It's Rilly's turn to get baptized now, but as soon as Isaiah places his hands on her head, she slaps them away, throwing a fit and refusing to be baptized. She insists that she has High Priest Horium, so she doesn't need a blessing. But everyone knows that refusing a blessing from the Prince of Sensiberia in favor of a High Priest is ridiculous, as they can't even give blessings themselves. Horium immediately arrives, holding a crying Rilly while she tells him about her blood. He comforts her, clearly aware of why she's like that. As soon as everyone else's blessings are finished, Ashtarte approaches Isaiah to talk before heading back to the Empress's palace. He's completely flustered, unable to speak properly after seeing her smile, making the other priests laugh a bit. He insists that she can go back to the Empress's palace now and that he'll go see her there later, clearly unable to get a hold of himself. Lastly, as Ashtarte turns to leave, she's called by her father, who wants to make sure she's all right and has everything she may need or want. She's frigid, not even turning to face him while telling him that the only thing she needs is time to hate all of them. Then, Mirigan asks Ashtarte to give them a chance, which really sets her off, reminding them of how they never gave her a chance when she was just a child. With tears pouring down her face, Ashtarte tells them this is no different from when she was a child, as they keep ignoring her wishes. Mirigan tells her that he was stupid for thinking that time would fix everything, and her father is about to say something as well when suddenly, the delegation sent from Nohay's arrives, led by none other than Rion himself. Ashtarte freezes on the spot, asking him if he truly is Rion while facing him. Back in the Empress's palace, Moana asks her if she really met the notorious Duke of Elframun. The Nohay's delegation is there to negotiate a peace treaty with Firenze, so Moana thinks Rion must be perfect, being smart and handsome. But Ashtarte seems to be in a very gloomy mood, telling Moana that he's not perfect as he has a terrible memory. Apparently, after she spoke to him, he completely ignored her, walking past her to the Emperor. Back in the Imperial Palace, Rion's subordinates are teasing him for his reaction, telling him he must have made Ashtarte upset, thinking he'd forgotten her. But he just sends them off to their rooms so he can hurry back out to the Empress's palace to finally reunite with her. Ashtarte, however, is so hurt she's decided she'll burn the black ribbon she made for him all those years ago, deciding she won't be the only one waiting for another person to notice her again in her life. Nonetheless, as soon as she steps out of the Empress's palace, ribbon in hand, she's met with a panting Rion, who clearly ran all the way there. In the setting sun, Rion greets her. Well guys, that's it for now. Unfortunately, there aren't any more chapters available of this story just yet, but oh gosh, how could they cut it off right when they meet again? Not to talk about the love triangle that just formed. If you liked it, please say so, and we'll keep updating as soon as more of the story is published.